We ran a lot of 400-mile races that wasn't near as interesting. This was 600 miles, and it was interesting the whole race.
I ain't going to call them numbers or names, but there was some well-known drivers and winners that didn't run worth a crap, Richard.
The air is so screwed up. And finally, he just said, to heck, man, 6 laps to go. I'm going to go no matter, forget the air. So he just drove that thing on down in the first corner there, then slid up in front of him. He done exactly what he needed to do.
Have you picked up on your Spanish?
Yeah. Adios, man. That's me.
What a racing weekend, Richard.
You know, it was interesting, really was, to run 600 miles and cars be that close after 600 miles, really racing with each other for the win. That's a heck of a deal. But it was competitive all through the race. There was one segment, I don't know, 200 or 300 miles or something, 300 or 400 miles, got kind of dull. But after that and before that, there was people racing everywhere, man.
Yeah, but the 24 car one time, Richard, got out about 7 or 8 seconds. And other than that, they wasn't separated. First and second wasn't separated more than a second.
See, to begin with, the 45 stayed right with the 24. And then he faded away, and then here comes the 11 car, and they raced and raced and raced. And then they come down close to the end of the race, and they both made pit stops at the same time. They left pit road at the same time. The 11 was like, right on his bumper, and within 3 or 4 laps, he had a 2-second lead on it. That's how much quicker that Chevrolet was than that.
Yeah, but probably leading back to that, Richard, the 11 bunch might have been a little bit confused because they might have been trying to save enough gas because they didn't get no gas.
No, they knew they wasn't going to save gas enough to make that.
Okay, yeah, because
he ran just as hard as he could.
Yeah,
but he couldn't keep up. But the 24 was the class of the field until the end of the race. Then I think he said his car got tight or something. But anyhow, the one car, they just run and run and run. You really wasn't paying that much attention. And first thing you know, he's right up there right quick. The 77 car, he got up right in the middle and blowed up coming off the second corner. He was just lucky that they didn't have more wrecks there than that.
That could have very easily been a big one.
Yeah.
But he just blowed up going through the gears, didn't he?
Who?
The 77.
No. They was running full speed.
Well, okay, but
yeah,
he
was 3 or 4 of them was right, nose to nose, and he just started coming off the corner. I guess when he got back on it, thing just blowed up.
Yeah, but talking about race day, I watched pre-seat of Indy and everything, and one thing I really enjoyed about Indy was on their pace lap there was 2 Army helicopters that made a pace lap with them. That was unreal.
I missed that one.
But as they talked about the start of the race, and Richard, and leading up to the 600, and it turned out to be right, and I'm not, but I just knowed pit road was, and the pit crew was going to be big.
It was
during
really
the race, and it was really big.
And they were making pit stops under green.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's according to how quick you got down pit road or get off pit road, and then it really put the pressure on the pit crews.
Yeah, ain't no question about it.
It changed the complexity of the race also, because you'd have people running 4th or 5th, and they'd come out 10th or 12th, or then you'd have people running 10th or 12th come out 2nd or 3rd. So the pit crew was very important for that race for sure.
I ain't going to call them numbers or names, but there was some well-known drivers and winners that didn't run worth a crap, Richard.
It was surprising. The Fords didn't run good at all.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They didn't qualify good. They didn't practice good. And you would think that being they've been running so good at a lot of other tracks, that they would have run good there. But the basic deal was it must have been a Chevrolet track, because Chevrolets really really dominated the deal. Really the 45 car showed a little speed to begin with, but then the 11 car was really the only other Toyota that really looked at halfway competitive.
Well, you bring up speed. When the 11 and 24 was racing, it looked like the 24 had just a little bit more speed than the 11.
That's what I'm saying.
But yeah, all in all, and I guess this was a heck of a crowd, wasn't it, Richard?
Yeah, the place was
I stayed at home. You was over there.
And they got their money's worth, and people stayed because it's amazing. We ran a lot of 400-mile races that wasn't near as interesting. This was 600 miles, and it was interesting the whole race. I mean, you're talking, what, 3 hours and a half, 4 hours, however how long the race lasted. But there wasn't nobody went home. Everybody stayed to watch and see what was going on.
I guess one of the disappointing things was, and I don't know where it should even lead up to this or not, but a different network carried the race, and I guess there's a lot of people didn't get to see it that normally
from
get to see
the
it.
TV deal.
And I had to go out to my daughter and son-in-law's house to pick it up. He come over and tried to hook my mess up where he could get it, but he couldn't, so I had to go out there and sit with them. And
at Amazon Prime or whatever. It's on,
And
I thought they did a pretty good job of covering it.
Yeah, I don't know, all in all. But I guess the last pass for the win dictated the whole race.
Oh yeah, well, yeah, it came down to that deal. When the one got by the 24, he pulled right up in front of the 24, and the 24, instead of hitting him, he'd heeling off.
Oh yeah.
I mean, he really cut him off, but he was ahead. He should have done that.
But
it was a heck of a good move.
But he might have been out of control himself. He hadn't let off.
It might have been. But really, when I looked at the rundown and stuff, the one that surprised me was the 6 car. He ran all day long, didn't pay a bit of attention to him, and he still wound up, what, 4th or 5th?
Says right here on this paper he ran 5th.
Yeah.
It started 35th.
Yeah, I know, but I'm saying he just run and run and run, and everything must have worked pretty good for him. And I never did see him really racing with anybody. He just run and just wound up staying out of trouble, you know.
It wound up being a good race, and then...
See, there was 3 or 4 of them cars that really run good. The 4 car, 5 car. The 42 run really good for a while until he ran into the wall. And the 45 finally ran into the wall. There was 5 or 6 cars that run decent that run in the wall and eliminated themselves.
Yeah, so, I get that.
So that changed the process of the race too.
But in defense of the 42, somewhere down the line they didn't cover it, but he went from about 5th place to 20th on one of the pit stops, and that just changed everything for his. Well,
then he had to try to drive a little bit different.
He did.
Trying to race for those people. And if you notice the deal, when them cars were out front, the first 4 or 5 had clean air, and they could really go good. But you get back there, 5th or 6th, 10th or 12th, 15th or 30th,
you're just another car.
The air is so screwed up. I mean, just like watching the race there at the end, the one car would run and get right on the 24, and then first thing you know, he'd be 100 yards behind. Then he'd run and catch him again, and then the air is so screwed up, you know what I mean? And finally he just said, to heck, man, with 6 laps to go, I'm going to go no matter, forget the air. So he just drove that thing on down in the first corner there, and then slid up in front of him. He done exactly what he needed to do.
But here you are preaching air defensive, and I guess is really, really critical. But boy, them 4 new tires really overcome a lot of stuff too, don't they?
Well, he didn't. He had 2 laps less on his car tires, and 2 laps would not made that much difference.
No, I get all that, Richard, but I'm just saying.
I think they was talking about he had better tires 2 laps don't make better tires,
But
and they're not that much different.
but
I do realize that from time to time, you get a set of tires that is not as good as the set you had before, or they change the car. And no matter how much Goodyear does and how much the crew looks after them, all those tires can't be exactly right.
I think they're closer than there was when me and you
They're the closest they've ever been.
Yeah.
And they really, Goodyear does a good job of trying to make them as close as they can. And then the crews try to match them up.
Yeah.
And, coming off the out of the factory at the same time, so they know they got the same rubber, the same heat on them and all that. So, but still yet, all you got to get one that takes a half a pound of air different than the other one,
boy.
Then it really screws things up.
But during all our times, I think I worked on manual grip more than anything. But we had air, but we didn't understand it as much as they preach it today.
Oh no, it's a lot more.
But I just
specific deal.
But I guess the point I was trying to.
If we got within a pound and a half, we was in good shape.
Well, the gauge wouldn't read that much. But I guess the point I'm making is they depend so much on air right now, and that's all good and well good. But them 4 new tires still help everything.
Oh yes, yeah. Give me 4 tires every time I stop if you can.
Well, it's off to Nashville this week.
Yeah, it's going to be a completely different show than what we had this past week. So that's what makes it so interesting, Cup racing. You run one kind of track, 600 miles. You go 400 miles. Then they go into Mexico City and run around a road course. So it's going to be interesting next 2 or 3 weeks.
Have you picked up on your Spanish?
Yeah. Adios, man. That's me. The 22 car, they couldn't catch him. In other words, he was running just as fast. He ran faster than the leader. The 24 came up and got pretty within, a couple hundred yards of the 22. And then that's when the air kind of messed up. But it was not up to him, being he wasn't that close, for the 22 to get out of his way. And I don't know what the 11 car was thinking, because he had come in, got gas, and probably some tires. And, he charged up there, and he was already a lap down. So I didn't understand why the 11 car tried to get into that group. But that really changed the complexity of the race, because it let give the one car the advantage of the air coming off of 2 or 3 cars.
Yeah, I don't think the 11 car did anything wrong, because he had new tires and he wanted to get back on the lead lap for sure. But he definitely changed that particular lap where the 24 car got passed. I don't know, but it was quite a show.
Well, yeah, it's pretty weak. But if they make that stronger, then what's the next weakest length? So when they hit the wall with the right rear, something's got to give. You can't make them stiff enough. And if you make them too stiff, then they don't give any, and then the driver can't stand the pressure. So I guess you got to have weak links in any chain.
Yeah, I look at all that stuff, and to me the rack and pinion steering is the weakest looking link to me. But like Richard said, that right rear can only take so much.
I don't guess it was any of them. Charlotte was never a good track for us. Won, 3 or 4 races, 4 or 5 races over there. But it didn't make no difference whether it was coil springs all the way around, coil springs in the front, straight springs in the rear, or whether it was torsion bars. The car didn't make the difference. The deal was how Dale was going to set it up.
We talking about Charlotte, we won more 400s than we did 600s, and then we finally won a 600 or two. But we look back on that, and we wasn't very good at the 400 in Daytona, but 7 Daytona 500s is pretty big. So that's not leading into the question, but it was just the way stuff happened. But I do remember one year, I think it was over in 1963, I think we had Richard, Bob James, and Jim Pascal driving our 3 cars.
Could be.
600-mile race, 1 pit crew. And I finally got so tired, I was changing the right front tire. I just didn't go back over the wall. I just waited for the next car to come in and put a tire on him. But that's just how much the sport has changed.
That'd be a good question. Eventually, they're liable to, because I think the way NASCAR is looking at it, from what I can pick up, they're looking at changing the last race. In other words, they went to Homestead, and then they ran for a few years. They went to Phoenix. They're going back to Homestead, but I don't know if they'll go back to Homestead in 27. They might come to Charlotte. You know what I mean? So from that standpoint, I think it would probably be better if they changed it around. And as long as they don't do a road course, I guess we'd be all right.
I don't even think about that much. No, the championship's decided for wherever the last race is, and never how the schedule comes out. That's what it is. If I had to pick one, it'd be hard to do. I just don't have no answer for that.